There's a 90s movie. It was a comedy called Groundhog Day. And in that movie, there was this TV weather reporter who was caught in a time loop, repeatedly reliving the same day. Our debates over these last 2 years, Mr. Speaker, on extending the states of emergency feels like our Parliament's version of this movie. Except the time loop is a little longer than 1 day, but it is 90 days as we keep extending these states of emergency. You know, we're talking about 941 murders up to last Saturday. This is a serious topic we're on.
At least he tried. You will never try.
Mr. Speaker, the debates go like this. The Prime Minister comes with charts and tables which he puts up on the screen. Sometimes the charts and tables go back to independence, showing us the trend coming up over time. And he establishes that violent crime is a serious problem in Jamaica. And then he makes a huge leap of faith, which would be a tribute to any evangelist, that the solution to this long-term violent crime problem is the state of emergency. And we've now heard, after almost 2 years, we hear that perhaps it's needed for another 5 to 7 years in order to stabilize the situation. Opposition members then get up and point out the weaknesses in the Prime Minister's arguments or his analysis. Government members defend, and the PM closes by doubling down on his position, puts back up his charts, and almost by force of repetition, tries to establish that this is working. And, perhaps he might throw in some ad hominem attacks on members who oppose his position. Then the final phase of this is that the government's PR machine, gets working. The apologists come out, the trolls swing into action, reinforcing the message that the only hope for safety and security is continuing these states of emergency. And further, that anyone who disagrees with it doesn't care about the safety and security. At this point, with the machinery, the propaganda machinery out there, it starts feeling not like Groundhog Day anymore, but more like Orwell's 1984, where the propaganda significantly alters the society, whereby controlling the narrative, the government controls the citizens. One commentator, a lawyer, describes these regular declarations. One commentator describes these regular declarations of states of emergency as, I quote, an embarrassing confession of ineptitude, confusion, and desperation. Another lawyer has compared it to a kind of national security tachyphylaxis. This is a medical term, tachyphylaxis, which refers to the rapid diminishing response to successive doses of a drug, rendering it less effective. So, Mr. Speaker, I invite us now to move away from the narrative, and instead let's focus on some statistics. Before the states of emergencies were declared or reimposed at the beginning of May this year, the murder was down 9% year to date. And I'm using the police statistics up to April 27th. These are the weekly statistics published in a document called the JCF Periodic Serious and Violent Crime Review. Up to September 14th, which is the last one published, murder is now up 2% compared with the same period 2018. So we were down 9% when we had no states of emergency running. Having reimposed it and extended it now to literally half of Jamaica, we're now up 2% compared with 2018. Overall. But let's drill down a little further into these statistics. Let us take the period between April 27th and September 14th and look what has happened during that period with the states of emergency. In 2018, during that period, there were 450 murders. In 2019, with all these states of emergency, there have been 507 murders, or a 13% increase in murders this year during this period with these increased states of emergency. Now, that doesn't mean that in these particular parishes you may not have reductions, but nationally you are actually having an increase. Mr. Speaker, at this rate, if we extrapolate the 941 murders we had up to September 14th through to the end of the year, we will be at somewhere around 1,336 murders. This is the second or maybe the third highest number of murders since 2010. This is not success, Mr. Speaker. After almost 2 years of continuous states of emergency in various parishes, we are going to have the second or third highest number of murders this year since 2010. This is not success. In 2011, with no states of emergency, 1,133. In 2012, no states of emergency, 1,099. 2013, no state of emergency, 1,201. 2014, no state of emergency, 1,005. 2015, no state of emergency, 1,208. So, Mr. Speaker, the narrative that has been very effective, and I give the Prime Minister credit at that, because propaganda and controlling the narrative seems to be the core competence of his government. But while you're entitled to your own opinion, you are not entitled to your own facts. And what the facts show is that the serial and routine use of states of emergency have not been effective. But let us move beyond just the murder statistics. Let us look at some other indicators from the JCF periodic serious and violent crimes review. Firearms seized this year under all these states of emergency, less than last year. Arrests are down relative to last year. Most important statistic, arrests with evidence for breaches of the Firearms Act. Now, arrests with evidence for breaches of the Firearms Act is where you're most likely to get a conviction of these gunmen that you've held with a firearm or ammunition and put them away and take them off the streets legitimately, not temporarily, but for a long period of time. Arrests with evidence for breaches of the Firearm Act is down 21% this year relative to the same period last year. But the Prime Minister is asking us to ignore the statistics and vote to continue to suspend the rights of almost half of Jamaica's population because, quite frankly, the heads of the security forces have asked for it because we've been given nothing else that would substantiate it. So, in these parishes, no citizen can seek refuge in the courts for wrongful detention or unjustified searches. No vendor, no pan chicken man or cook shop will be compensated if they go out of business based on the restrictions. But we must just trust the security forces. And you know, Mr. Speaker, just last week, as I heard the Minister of National Security refer to CTOC, the crack anti-gang unit, the specialists in our counter-terrorism and organized crime branch. It made me recall an incident last year where there was a press release from the same unit. Former Trelawney Hotel General Manager nabbed at NMIA for fraud charges. His arrest emanated from an intense investigation into several fraudulent activities involving two major banking institutions. Intense investigation by the same CTOC that we're relying on to attack the gangs, and intense investigation. Last week, we hear, finally, matter dismissed. No evidence offered. No evidence offered. This is an abuse of the power of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. But these are who we are to rely on and to trust without recourse to the courts, without recourse to any habeas corpus action. You know, Mr. Speaker, there was perhaps a very frank admission from an Assistant Commissioner of Police a few weeks ago. And, you know, he spoke really of what some people suspect that police do, but not as frankly as he would. He spoke about arresting people on a Friday evening so that they couldn't be brought before the courts until Tuesday. Again, this was a great amount of candor, but it really exposed the dark underbelly of how the JCF operates. Now, Mr. Speaker, with these examples, recent examples of abuses of power and the potential under the enormous powers that the security forces have during a state of emergency, I really do not believe we can just keep going forward on the basis of the security forces ask for it, so just trust them. We were told that ZOSAs and states of emergency before the Internal and External Affairs Committee of Parliament last year. We were told that the ZOSAs and the SOEs were being used as part of the clear, hold, and build strategy. The clear stage in this, sort of internationally accepted approach should typically take about 90 days, mainly to allow the transition to a long-term policing with the community approach. But in our case, instead of the clear phase ending, we're just cycling the first 90 days over and over and over and over again, like the movie Groundhog Day. Mr. Speaker, I have said it before, and I repeat it here. I cannot support the serial and routine use of the states of emergency as a tool of policing for two reasons. First, because it is unconstitutional. It is not how our Constitution, those of us who passed the Charter of Rights, anticipated that it would be used. And secondly, as I've demonstrated with the statistics, it is not effective. It is showing diminishing returns. And if we just keep pursuing this, like those who keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, the public will say we're all insane in here. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.